Hello, and welcome back to Daemonologie, podcast. Not actual play podcast, not Witches Workshop, but another Unmasked, which we haven't done in a while. This time we're not going to talk too much about the game, but we're going to talk a bit more about the real-life setting around it. So we're going to be talking about some folk and ghost stories from the 16 to 1800s, spanning all of our Jacobean and Victorian eras. And then we're going to talk about a few sessions that have happened off camera, just with some of our friends. And, you know, it's just the two of us here today. So I'm Alex, and my pronouns are he, they.
And I am Siobhan, and my pronouns are still he, him.
So let's go about this rodeo. Sure, rodeo. You've got some ghost and folk stories.
I do indeed. I wanna open up by talking about a publication called the Athenian Mercury. It was an advice column in 1690s London, and as you can imagine, the advice was not very good. Writing later on, Cecil A. Moore, a critic, said of John Dunton, the publisher of Athenian Mercury, that it is a safe generalization that the further we penetrate the elaborate deceptions Dunton built up around his character and work, the more plainly it will appear that he deserves no attention whatever as a creative writer.
Oh, have you got any examples of what people wrote in with?
Oh yes, absolutely, I do. Query: why is my wall ticking? Is it death?
Have you got a clock? Is that something people had?
What is that really? Which many people imaginarily fancy to be a death watch. The answer: only a worm in the wall. And the reason it is called a death watch is because it makes a noise just like a watch, and is reported to come into a house only to foretell the immediate death of some person in it, for which we see no more reason than for several other such like foolish omens.
Oh my god! Yeah, not your neighbour has a clock on that wall? Like...
No, it's a worm in the wall making a noise. It's not actually death. Calm down. We have this dying baby, did a very strange thing. The querent, this account is what I have heard so credibly accepted that I cannot doubt the truth of it. A child of 10 weeks old being taken with convulsions, the last fit it had, fit being capitalized because it's 17th century.
Yeah, of course.
Cried out distinctly 3 times, "Oh God," and immediately died. There were 6 people in the room. 2 of them I know. Some of them were frightened that they fell into a swoon. I desire your thoughts of it.
Wait, so 10-month-old baby?
Yeah.
Goes,
yeah,
oh
yeah.
god, oh god, oh god, and dies.
Yes.
Ah!
And the answer to that querent is generally along the lines of, we know of many instances where infants have died lifting up their hands and eyes and have smiled, although their age incapacitated to the use of their hands or eyes, or to be affected with an external object that could raise a smile, which instances must necessarily have their rise from some internal agent. Perhaps their intellect might have a supernatural illumination to see their innocence and the happiness the condition they were entering into, e.g. death. And this might be the case of the present instance, or else we shall offer this physical reason. When the soul is forced to leave the body, it exerted all its powers at once, to the highest degree it could, even beyond its, this part is unintelligible, acting by proper organs, and in the strife forced that unusual instance, just so an extinguishing candle, when 'tis going out, rallies all its powers together, and emits one greater flame than it did all the time it had nutriment enough to sustain it. So, dying baby cries out for God 3 times, like a candle, burning real bright at the end, crying out for Jesus because it's going to heaven. And it knows that, and it's pleased. And one last stray...
Look, hold on. Could you do me the favour of reading out the, or at least a part of the review that slandered this response? Because I have a suspicion, you think that all of this language sounds exactly like the advice giver, You're just like, oh yes, that's just how they spoke back then. But I think there was a stark difference between the, like, morbid verbosity that is going on in this advice column and the review. So do you still have that?
I will reveal the review is from 1925.
Okay.
Thus, it is less verbose. I only read the last sentence. That last sentence was still 6 lines long, but because it's the early 20th century.
Still, the way that people are writing in is significantly less flowery than the
responses. Oh yeah.
Wait,
yeah.
What's this final one? Go on.
And this final one is something that I had never heard said before, despite all of our work on the 17th century. It is a belief about storks.
Okay.
And this belief about storks is that do storks hate monarchies and only hang out in commonwealths?
Oh!
Whether it be true that storks are never found but in commonwealths, whether they were never any in England but in Oliver Cromwell's days, and if any be found, into what country do they retire during the winter? This question has a 4-part answer, which I will not read all of.
Bloody hell.
In fact, I shall only go to the very last paragraph as to what countries they retired to. We may answer of them as of the other aves migratorie, or season birds. Some have pleasantly enough thought that they go to the moon, or some of those distant bodies, though most others shorten their journey a little and only send them to warmer climates. But for the precise place or region, Pliny tells us, 'tis not yet discovered.
I'm absolutely dumbfounded by the idea that storks hate the monarchy.
Apparently a weirdly widespread belief amongst just your average 17th century English persons that storks hate kings.
That is, I can't tell if that is coming from sort of like anti-monarchic sentiment. That, like, people are like, oh, maybe the animals of the kingdom dislike our monarch, or if it's coming from, like, what are they doing? They don't love the monarch enough. I love the monarch plenty. I've got his face printed on a mug. Whoo! That is rabid bullshit that I wish I was able to say that we've moved on from socially, but we have not. I would not be surprised. I would not be surprised if I was reading tomorrow on Twitter somebody saying, just thinking, storks. Have you ever seen them rest in a country with a monarch? Historically speaking, I know there aren't many actual monarchic heads of state at the moment, but I'm speaking about figureheads.
There is a direct lineage between do storks hate kings, two birds aren't real.
Yeah, birds are drones. Birds are government drones. It's weirdly opposite of like, well, I guess like all birds are Republicans.
And that's just the taster. Those are just simply some things that people thought might be true in the mid-17th century.
Unbelievable.
I have a short tale from the late 17th century, the tale of Whipping Tom.
Okay.
Whipping Tom in 1861. Actually, let me read you a pamphlet about Whipping Tom from the time. His first adventure, as near as we can learn, was on a servant maid in New Street, this is in London, who being sent out to look for her master, as she was turning a corner, again, there are weird capital letters all over this.
Which, of course we have replicated in the fact that every single rule has a capital letter.
Yes.
Which, is just to add the verisimilitude of Jacobean and Victorian ways of writing. That's the only reason we did that.
Yeah, absolutely. It feels super weird. It's not even like a German thing. It's not even just for nouns. It's just for stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Just random stuff will be capitalized. Perceived a tall man standing up against the wall as if he had been making water, but she had not passed far, but with great speed and violence seized her, and in a trice, laying her across his knee, took up her linen, and laid so hard upon her backside as made her cry out most piteously for help, the which he no sooner perceiving to approach, as she declares, than he vanished. Yes, a phantom spanker.
When I heard whipping, I didn't assume spanking at all.
Mm-hmm. He would wait in narrow and dimly lit alleys and courtyards, and after approaching, he was haunting Fleet Street, the Strand, Holborn. He would approach an unaccompanied woman, grab her strongly, lift her dress, and slap her on the buttocks. Sometimes would accompany his attacks by shouting "spanker" before running off.
Unbelievable.
There was great public outcry to the attacks, and women began carrying penknives, sharp bodkins, scissors, and the like. And male vigilantes would start dressing as women to try and catch Whipping Tom. In the end, a haberdasher from Holborn and his accomplice were caught for the whippings. But because we now have no record of the trial, so we do still not know their names.
And his accomplice.
Yes. A woman who we believe, who they called Skipping Joan. Yes, a lady spanker.
Good for her. It really, incredible public response. Good to see the community rallying together. Oh my god.
There's something so extraordinary about imagining you're walking around just London, middle of 1681. You happen across a lone woman. You think she's in distress. You say, "Oh, hello. Sorry, madam." And a man turns around with a knife and is like, "Are you him? Are you Tom?" "No, I thought you were in trouble."
Oh my god.
Just a dock worker trussed up in his skirts turns to you with a blade.
I do enjoy the sort of like the quick and willingness for your everyday gentlemen to dress themselves up in ladies' clothing. Do enjoy that. That's good.
Mm-hmm. Big fan of that. London was actually plagued by a series throughout the 16th, 17th to 18th century of not Jack the Ripper, not like murderers, but nuisances. Mm-hmm. There was Whipping Tom. There was the London Monster, who in the 18th century just went around pricking women with a little needle and running off. And then there, of course, in the 18th century, there was Spring Heel Jack.
Yes.
Who we know mostly to be a man who was running about in a cape and little hat naked, jumping off of things.
Oh my god. Oh, the hat makes it
Yeah, because he's not. If you were entirely naked, it would have a different feeling to it.
Oh, that's very enjoyable. Do you have more?
Oh, I have one to finish.
Okay, lovely.
I have quite a spooky one, a Scottish one.
Very exciting.
I have the legend of the Hunderprest, the vampire of Melrose Abbey. So Melrose is an abbey up in Scotland. It is also a place up in Scotland, apparently lovely for a holiday. I've never been.
Googling, which I fully know will mean that I have to edit out some typing.
That's all right.
It is lovely, and the abbey. Wow,
it is.
Yeah.
Oh, aye. There's a chapter house which is thought to contain the heart of King Robert the Bruce in Melrose also. But that's not the story.
Oh, I've got myself on Norwegian Wikipedia, and I don't know how. How did I do that? Apparently the image I clicked on is only on Norwegian Wikipedia. I was like, oh, that's a weird spelling of Scotland. Well, yeah.
So I shall tell this entire tale, and then we can have a little chat about it. I shall tell a quick story from one of my sessions, and then we shall obviously artificially break for some time.
A whole week.
Yeah. But for us, like 10 minutes. Yeah. Right, so there's an eerie story that tells of how the monks of Melrose Abbey saved the town from a dark spectre that had been plaguing the inhabitants for some time. The vampire of Melrose was, during his lifetime, a chaplain to a lady who lived nearby. The chaplain was fond of all manners of sin and vice. He was then nicknamed Hundprest, meaning dog priest. Now, this is, of course, Hundprest being said in a thick Scots accent that I can't do. This appellation is given to him because of his favourite sport of hunting on horseback, followed by a small pack of howling hounds. In the story of the Border Marches, John Lang says, other things he also loved that made not for sanctity, and when at last he died, his death was no more holy than his selfish, sensual life had been. When he died, he paid the price for his wrongdoing, as his soul could not find peace. His ghastly form stalked the streets at night in search of blood, terrifying the locals. The townspeople turned to the church for solution to their plight, and the monks sought to answer their pleas. They prayed, fasted, and challenged the ghoul, eventually defeating it. The monster's corpse was thrust into a fire, reducing it to ashes, that were then carried by the wind over the Lammermoor Hills to the north along Scottish borders. Sometime after his death, it is said that he tried to enter Melrose Abbey at the dark of night in the form of a winged bat, and turning into a dark vampire creature. Through prayer and rituals against the devil, the monks of the abbey were able to drive him away. After denied access, he would roam the grounds and cottage of a woman who, in times past, when he was among the living, was in his employ. It was reported by the near neighbours that the vampire roamed about the dwelling where he moaned and screeched to her and caused much alarm. Thus she had no choice to summon an elder monk from the abbey to investigate the disturbance and perform the rites of exorcism. The elder monk whom was summoned brought along a fellow monk and 2 other men, both novices, began the investigation. No, Wilcox, I'm not just reading a Daemonologie premise.
I was thinking you're either describing The Exorcist or yeah.
They decided to watch the former priest's grave when, in a rustic places, the last glimmer of daylight died away. During the monk's watch, the priest arrived in the guise of a vampire and appeared to levitate out of the deep grave, pushing gravestone asunder. The frightening phantom began to approach the trembling monks at an alarming rate. The priest retreated as he composed himself from the shock. He then lifted up his staff and smote the figure again and again. Then the elder monk retreated back to the grave. Then the grave suddenly opened with a terrible sound, and the Hunde priest was swallowed into its deep pit. After the grave had opened, enveloped the priest in the warm earth, it returned to normal as nothing had ever happened. The elder monk knew then that he was dealing with a true vampire. Immediately he took action. He told it to the companions of what occurred and to open the grave on the first light of the coming morn, which they agreed. They waited till the dark of the night, and they dispatched one of the novices to bring tools to the abbey, which is used upon the cock of a crow. Upon the opening of the grave, the vampire priest was lying in his coffin, dead to the world, grinning with bloody lips the blood of his victims. Then the elder monk ordered his companions to remove the body and place it on the ground, then to burn it and scatter the ashes in the gusty winds. Today, there are those of the town that vow they still hear a muted scream through the ruins at the dark of a night, of a man in different form, who in life had seemingly walked a godly life.
Bloody
and that
hell.
Is the vampire priest of Melrose Abbey.
Fucking hell. So, like, when you were saying, like, he was, wandering around the house, moaning at his wife, was it?
His former employer.
Former employer, okay, yeah. When he was, running around the house, moaning at his former employer, I was like, oh, yeah, sure, he was a vampire. Rising from his coffin. That's much more vampiric, yeah. Shit, all right. You always wonder, like, if you're trying to sell the idea of exorcisms to the general populace, what sort of stories you come up with to say, like, oh yeah, we fought a vampire.
Yeah, we fought a vampire tooth and nail. And like, it wasn't just an exorcism. They also, like, there was a brawl at one point where they just hit him with a staff over and over again.
Love it. Like, yeah, no, genuinely does sound like, you know, that's a mini scenario in Daemonologie. Oh,
Please, I would be so grateful if any of our listeners did then go off to write this scenario.
Yeah,
I would very much love to
wild.
see it.
I mean, yeah, no, yeah. Very good. Very good. All right. Should we talk about some Tales from the Void?
Indeed, I have but one for you. It will feel very familiar. It is, I've been with my own housemates playing the example scenario from the book, Cresswell Crags.
Fun.
To see how it's held up in its new form. And something that happened to us the first time we played in Cresswell Crags also happened to them.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's very exciting. Yeah. What? Oh, yeah. No, I'm gonna play on my memory now and see what I can recall from what feels like a very, very long time ago.
Oh yeah, the party is composed of Sir Richard Peppercock, an old Presidium knight, Fanny Charge, a druid, Captain Pierre Delicky, a rogue, and Brother Polydor Bane, a charlatan.
Carry on up the Daemonologie.
Carry on up the Daemonologie. Richard Peppercock is a drunk, of course.
Yeah, of course. Of course.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, go on. All right, what do they get up to?
Right, so it's session 2. They are been investigating. They've returned to the Pillar of Rock, their base of operations. It's an inn in Bolsover, and this is when Brother Polydor first arrived with the party. He met some artisans, confirmed the story of a local huntress of having seen a dark shape in the sky, and then the captain and Fanny arrived. Now, when talking to the artisans, Polydor may have accidentally revealed that the devil may have something to do with all of this, and that panicked them. Now, in order to stamp down this panic, the captain tried to convince the artisans that Brother Polydor was simply jesting. But he failed in this, but he got a 6.
Yep. Okay.
So the bargain that he took to put down his hysteria then immediately turned the day into night, raising hysteria double to what it would have been anyway. Brother Polydor had to lead a furious prayer in that moment to try and find some middle ground between the chaos they had caused in just 3 short steps.
Yep. I remember very vividly that when we played for the first time being a house plagued by dancing.
Oh, yes. Yes. But wait, something even more familiar happens. When they get up to Bolsover Castle.
Oh, no.
They're chatting. Oh, yes.
Okay. I know where this is going.
They're chatting with Lord Talbot. Brother Polydor took a bargain to try and perceive books that might be of interest to them. At that moment, Bess of Hardwick enters the study of Lord Talbot and says, "Something has appeared in the kitchens. All the workers have run off, and we don't know what's going on. Please come with me." Led the party down to the kitchens, where a skeleton had
delightful
appeared from simply nowhere and was ruining their Epiphany dinner. Just tossing over turkeys and throwing around potatoes and waving about his sword. And just in our style, Sir Richard Peppercock was almost killed by the skeleton.
Yeah, oh my god. Yeah, I know, I remember fully that skeleton actually doing some horrible bloody damage.
Oh yeah, they had a really unlucky roll. The captain kept missing with his crossbow.
Why is it that the only, deadly bloody combats I've ever seen are, one-on-one with a skeleton?
People underestimate the skeleton.
Because I had one in a scenario that I'm working on in Tintagel, where somebody found a skeleton down a flight of stairs, and like slowly like climbing the stairs. This is on the side of a cliff. That slowly climbing the stairs was sort of like shooting and like stabbing at this skeleton, but it just kept fucking coming, and just sort of like bloodily, like they ended up just running. We had that with the skeleton in Lord Talbot's, and then I'm pretty sure there's been another one. It might just be the fact that it's happened twice. With that
it's weird
skeleton.
that it's happened. It's weird that it's happened twice. That one skeleton, because Captain Peppercock was so everyone was in a bad way from this fight, because what happened is that bullets and arrows just kept whizzing through the skeleton.
Not to double dip, but like on sort of like the subject of repeating Devil's Bargains, I do remember that game that we played with Indeed Art illustrators, Digby and Izzy, and Nathaniel to a degree, and also Oscar. At different points, but mostly Digby and Izzy, where 3 times during the whole scenario we took the same Devil's Bargain to set fire to a local church, and it was just the one poor guy.
Yeah.
This was in Wales, of course. The Mischievous Song. Poor Folan Howl. Excellent character.
One of my favourite NPCs I've ever made. Folan Howl.
Brilliant, man. I'm so glad we got rid of him. But he was great. Yeah, great stuff. I'm very glad it's repeating in exactly the same way. What I thought you were going to say is because what happened to Ashcroft Lane, who we saw last week. What happened to Ashcroft Lane in, I don't remember if it was the same one, but a similar having a dinner for a conversation or an audience, ended up with everybody's food turning to ash in their mouths.
That is one that I do love. I do love the all the food does X bargains. When I play Message of a Song, when we play Message of a Song, all the food in that village sprang legs and ran off.
That was good fun. I do love it when you discover a Devil's Bargain and you sort of like metagame know that it's not an issue because that's the 6 that you just rolled, but your character has to go like, yeah, I see this is an issue. However, we're not going to deal with it too much because we think we're maybe responsible, but don't worry about that. Sometimes these things happen.
It's sort of like the metagame that's still within the game, because at this point, if an experiencer is experienced enough, they might be like, which we have seen a few times even in recordings, them going, I'm pretty sure we've done that one.
Fab.
Yeah. Go ahead.
So Fab, just a short one today, but we'll have a short one next week as well, and then hopefully after that we'll be back to our Le Channel Laura for some more vicious combats.
Oh yes.
Yeah, I feel like it's just sort of like now fight of the week. But yes, do come and say hello to us at Daemonologie RPG. That's Daemonologie, IE, Daemonologie RPG. Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. I might leave this in, I might not. We may soon be changing it to at Six Planes or Six Planes Gaming or something like that.
In fact, our company name.
Yeah. How about that? Wild. Who knows? We might have to be doing that because we have another game in the works. Don't worry about it.
It's fine.
Yes. So at Daemonologie RPG, or failing that, you'll find us in a few weeks. Yes, at Daemonologie, Daemonologie at Gmail, Daemonologie RPG, fucking hell. Daemonologie RPG at gmail.com. If you want to email us email us your own Victorian or Jacobean stories.
Oh, yes, please.
Yeah, we genuinely love that. Who knows? If you do, we may share it in an episode, if I remember, or we find a good one. That'd be cool. I'd love to do that.
I would love to do that.
Rate the podcast 5 stars, and thank you to Tasha Soffler and Oscar Russell. Tasha for the music and Oscar for the graphic design. Find more of Oscar's stuff at Watchtower Design. Fab, I think that's everything. Getting the outro in my head, actually. I don't look at a piece of paper anymore.
Oh?
I just do that. Which makes me feel like I get it wrong every time. But fab, cool. Thank you, and see you next time. Bye-bye!
Bye!